Robert Rivas Radio, Tejano, and much more.
Robert Rivas Radio, Tejano, and much more. And at the time, man, I am just flattered to have Danny de la Paz being part of my morning show. Good morning, Danny. How are you doing, amigo?
I am doing very well, thank you. Very well indeed.
Danny, I got to tell you, man, we all know that you're a part of a really, really big movie, American Me and You. I mean, just the role you played in that movie. But before we talk about this, I'd like to know, and I'm sure the listeners would like to know, how did you get involved in an acting career? Where did this all start for you, Danny?
Well, it started for me when I was 14 years old, a freshman in high school. And that's when I got involved in the theater department at that school and started doing plays in front of live audiences and had a very good teacher. She was very influential in my young life at that time. And she was very inspirational. And she recognized that I had talent, and she helped nurture that talent over the 4 years that I was in that school, to the point that by my senior year, I had gotten my first professional job, and I had to go to night school to graduate because in the spring of my senior year, I had to leave school and rehearse. So I had to go to night classes in order to graduate.
Wow. The struggles to be an actor, no, Danny?
Well, it started way back then, actually.
Now, what was one of the first movies you ever came out in?
The very first movie I did was Boulevard Nights.
Fíjate. Wow, Boulevard Nights, man. Danny, how did you land that role?
I had gotten an agent when I was 19 years old, and then that agent started submitting me for television and film roles. And I got a couple of small roles in television movies of the week or after-school specials or a little TV show that didn't go anywhere, and but nothing really major. And so 2 years went by, and then one day my agent called and he submitted me for this role in this film, which wasn't called Boulevard Nights. At the time, it was called King Cobra.
Okay.
And I went to that audition, and then I ended up going back for the next, 4 months or so, 3 or 4 months. Kept going back and back and back to keep calling back and going to different auditions for this film until eventually they made up their minds and they cast me in the role, and that was what happened.
Talk about what a way to get your acting career started in movies with Boulevard Nights. No, Danny.
Well, it was a very big part. And it was a great opportunity for a young actor, especially since I'd had already 7 years of experience under my belt on the stage. But I had not had very much experience in front of the camera, so it really was a trial by fire, so to speak. But a great experience and one that I'll never forget.
Now, after Boulevard Nights, where did you go from there?
Well, when Boulevard Nights wrapped, I think it was sometime around October of '78. Then in November, I got on a plane and went to Spain for 10 weeks to make another movie with Sean Connery called Cuba.
Right, Cuba? Was it with Sean Connery? Wow. Okay, so then now you got Cuba, and you take care of business. It sounds like, man, you're on a roll, Danny. You're simply on a roll, man. You're kicking butt out there, man. And then from there, what happens after Cuba?
Well, the realities of a career, they rear their ugly head, and the next thing you know, you're losing your innocence and your youthfulness in this world of Hollywood. You're seeing how people treat each other, and you're seeing the way things are, and it's quite a strange, rather dark place, actually. And I think I just, you get caught up in it. Some people get caught up with drugs and all that. I never got caught up that way, but you just get caught up in it, with the ego and all that sort of thing. And I don't know. It's been a wild ride, But that's another world. That's a long time ago. All that happened, and young people don't have the same idea about acting that my generation did back in those days.
Do you think that there's a big difference in the Latino actors back from your time getting started and the Latino actors of today?
Well, I guess every generation probably thinks that. I mean, I don't know. I imagine there is. I just know that the business itself has changed in many ways. It doesn't seem like young people today are very much interested in the craft of acting. That just doesn't seem very interesting to them. To them, mostly it's about getting gigs and getting paid and walking the red carpet and see if you can get your picture on the cover of this or on the cover of that. But it has nothing to do with the craft of acting, though. That's all sort of fallen by the wayside.
Now, Danny, let me kind of rephrase that in a sense. Do you think it was harder back in your time to land acting jobs, movies, as TV series, whatever, compared to today? Was it harder back in the day than it is today for the Latino actor?
Well, I think there's more opportunities today because there's more outlets now with the internet and all the different cable stations. I mean, back in those days, you only had 4 television stations, basically. So there's a lot more opportunities now. But I think we're still very underrepresented in terms of the bigger picture as far as our culture is concerned, There's still very little of us compared to everything else that's out there.
Eventually, you come across the movie American Me. Danny, how did you land the part that you did with American Me? I mean, how were you contacted? How did this all begin when you were part of this simply awesome movie?
Well, you have to understand that American Me began in 1973. So when we were on the set of Boulevard Nights, we were talking about American Me.
Already? So you had to already?
It had already been around. The script had already been around for 5 years at that point.
Wow.
But it had not gotten made. But amongst the Latino actors, it was one of those projects that everybody wanted to work on. So everyone was hoping that every year that came and went, that it would get made that year. Eventually, the 70s came and went, and the 80s came and went, and I forgot all about American Me. Until the beginning of the 90s, I ran into Edward James Olmos at a party somewhere, and he said, "You'll never believe it, but we're going to make American Me." So I was shocked. I was like, American Me? You got to be kidding. But at that point, 13 years had gone by, and I was already older, in my early 30s, so there's no way I could have played Little Puppet anymore because I simply wasn't young enough. So then I had to go back and look at the script and see what there was available role-wise. And I did see there was a lot of characters in that film. And then it was easy to get lost in the shuffle with all those, parts. No one's going to remember you unless you're the star of the movie, But there was that one role of the older brother. And because of what he did in the film, it was very memorable when you're reading the script. I thought, well, even though it's not the biggest role in the film, that if someone could get that role and do it well, that there was a good chance that you would be remembered. It's hard to be remembered in a long movie like that with so many characters, You get to be like a needle in a haystack.
I got to tell you something, Danny. You're right, but I tell you what, your character is well remembered. It really is. You played one hell of a role. You really, really did.
Well, it was a great opportunity for me to have that role. It was something I really, really wanted. I know a lot of actors wanted to play that part because, an actor wants something he can sink his teeth into and something that he could use to show whatever gift he has, So it was a great opportunity and one that I am very grateful for and am to this day very grateful for having been chosen to be in that film. It's already going on its 24th anniversary next year.
Danny, when y'all started filming American Me, and then, of course, the prison scenes and stuff like that, refresh my memory, what prison was the film recorded at?
American Me was shot at Folsom Prison.
There we go.
Yeah. And Blood and Blood Out was shot in San Quentin.
There we go.
And they were shot at the same time. Blood and Blood Out actually started first, and then we started, and then we actually finished, and then they finished, but we came out first because they wanted to go back and do some rewriting, and not rewriting, but add some new scenes to their film. They added a coda, what they call a coda, which is like an ending. That whole scene in the riverbed in Blood and Blood Out, it wasn't in the original script. And so we came out in 1992, and then they had to go back and reshoot some stuff and shoot that new scene. So they didn't release that film until 93. But yeah, they were shot in San Quentin for Blood and Blood Out and Folsom for American Me.
How did you feel, Danny, being inside of Folsom, being there at the prison? I mean, you know, did it make you nervous? Did it make you like, wow, I can't believe I'm in here doing this?
Yeah, it was kind of a surreal experience, and I was nervous and a little fearful. And I'd never been in an institution like that before. And I was just kind of surprised that, you know, my career led me there. Just seemed like a strange place to end up. You start off as a career as an actor, and you end up in a penal institution like that. I mean, it was just such a serious place to be. It was very, very impactful being in a place like that. You don't soon forget it.
I can imagine, dude. I can only imagine. And then you playing the role that you're playing, and you know, how did you feel about the role you played?
The main thing about that part, the biggest challenge of that role for me, was that the audience had to believe that Puppet truly loved his little brother. Because if they didn't believe that, then the scene where Puppet takes his own brother out would not have the same effect on them that it should have. So the biggest challenge for me was to get them to believe that I loved my brother, which I did. I did love the brother. Puppet loved his brother very much, but the audience had to believe that in order for the scene to work where he takes his brother out.
Yes, because in the movie, even in the beginning where little Puppet gets in prison, right away your character is trying to sell it to the other gang members by telling them that's not his thing, man, to kill somebody or something like that, but you were willing to take on his responsibility, but
Yeah, he's right away. He's that's his project in there is his brother. Take care of his brother. Take care of his brother. You know, do what he has to do to make sure that his brother's okay in there. I mean, that becomes his whole life. Is when his brother gets there, it's all about the brother.
It's I've seen that movie so many times, just so many times, and I have no problem seeing it again and again and again.
There was a third brother. There was 3 of them, not 2 of them. Do you remember him?
Okay. Let me see here.
They had another brother. They had another brother. The 2 of them had another brother, and he was going to college.
I don't remember that one.
I love to stump people with that one. As many times as they've seen it, they often forget that. And at the party when Santana, Edward James Olmos's character, gets out of prison, they have a party for him. You meet that brother there. And the cousin tells Santana, oh, so-and-so thinks his you-know-what doesn't stink because he's going to college.
Oh, that was him. That was your third brother.
That was the brother, yes. There was 3 of them.
Wow.
Yeah. There was a third brother.
Danny,
he was a small part, but he was in there.
Danny, in your role that you played in that movie, to this day, do people still look at you and see you as Puppet? Do they see you as, man, that's Puppet from American Me? Do they call out to you like that?
Yes, they do. They do. That's exactly what they do.
Does it bother you, or do you say, man, I'm glad they see me that way, or do you kind of like, man, enough is enough, or how do you?
Oh, no. I never feel that way about it. I'm very grateful, and feel very blessed that people feel that way about me, that they enjoy the performance very much, that they felt something when they watched it, and they continue to feel something when they go back and view it again. I think it's an honor that so many people appreciate the work that was done in that film, not just from me, but from all the other actors and the director as well, because Edward James almost deserves the credit for not only my performance, but for all the performances in that film, because he oversaw all of that. Those performances are there, and they're molded that way because of him. He was very, very specific about what he wanted in that film and about the people that he put into it. He picked everybody. He handpicked everyone that was in that movie. They were handpicked by Edward James Olmos. That's really how we got into that film. It was him.
Danny, correct me if I'm wrong in this. I remember reading one time where when the movie was put out to the movie theaters, and I heard that, not heard, but read in magazines to where gang members and things like people like that were criticizing the way the movie portrayed some of the gangs in prison, and they wanted to retaliate against some of the actors. Do you remember anything like this?
Well, there was a lot of rumors going around at the time, but as far as my being privy to any information about what was really happening or what wasn't happening, I really don't know what was going on at the time. I wasn't, that information just never got to me. But I was aware of the fact that there was a lot of controversy around the film. But how much of it was just rumor and how much of it was the truth, I really don't know.
Did the movie ever make you nervous, like when you read the script and you said, you know what? Man, I don't know if I should do this. I don't know how people are going to see me trying to sell this part, this role that I'm doing. And then, the after effects when the movie comes out, am I going to be able to walk the streets and stuff for what,
I never had that kind of foresight about the film as far as my performance was concerned. But I did express my concerns to Edward James Olmos, about the movie. I told him, wow, a lot of people are going to really be pissed off about this film. And I remember him telling me that he understood that, but that he felt that this issue with the gangs was like a cancer in our community, and that it was never going to heal until it was brought out into the light. And that was the whole reason why he made American Me, was to shed light on the subject. I don't think he was trying to make a judgment about it one way or the other, but he just wanted to bring it out of the closet and bring it into the light.
Danny, what made you think that people were going to get upset about the movie?
That it was more truthful in many ways than movies dare to be. The people that the movie was made about were being exposed in a very truthful way. There was no sugarcoating it. So I thought, well, maybe some people are going to be a little touchy about that, a little sensitive about us going into their world and taking the lid off and letting people see what's inside, It's one thing to look at something like gangsterism from the outside, and you have an idea of what you think it is or whatever. And it's quite another when you go inside and see what the reality is, as opposed to what the image is or what the facade of it is. So that's why I thought that maybe it might ruffle a few feathers, because sometimes people don't want the truth to be known.
Danny, también, there was a person who was part of the cast, but he played a very minor role, who was an actual part of either La M, or he was in part of the gang and being in prison, where he was kind of giving the director ideas of things that would happen in prison. Am I correct in this?
Well, there was a woman who was helping us, and she also played the grandmother, and she was working with young people to try to get them out of gangs at the time. But she and her whole family had been in the M, and they grew up in it for several generations, actually, I think. But she worked with us on the film, and she played the grandmother role in it.
I think, and what you were saying about it opened up a lot of people. It opened up a lot of eyes to what people didn't realize what would happen in jail. One thing that it just kind of like blew me away was, and you come out in that part, was when it shows a female walking into the restroom and dropping some drugs and flushing the toilet.
Yeah.
And then you're at the other side of it, of the pipe, and you're feeling your way trying to get the balloon. That's just he's trying to pass the drugs to you. And I was like, wow, I never realized,
Well, that was the kind of thing that I'm telling you about now, that I'm, the details that, you didn't used to, until that movie came out, you never saw a scene like that in a film about prison.
That's right.
Nobody bothered to go into that kind of detail about what was really going on in there until American Me. And I think a lot of people had that reaction to it. They were just like, wow. It's like, it's an eye-opener.
It is. It really, really was. And even more so, kind of like in the scene to where the drug dealer's son gets raped in the kitchen as well. Things like that. I mean, it was just raw scenes, and you're just like, wow. Yeah. It didn't hold back any punches, did it?
No, it didn't. It didn't hold back any punches. That's right. It's a very intense, hardcore kind of a movie, but it's about a very intense, hardcore subject matter. So, what are you going to do? You can't. I mean, you could make it a different way. Then you come out with something like Blood In, Blood Out, which is made by Disney. That is a Disney film made with Disney money. And you can tell the Disney touch because it doesn't have that kind of hard, rough edge that American Me has. It's a good film in and of itself, but it's a bit more of a traditional Hollywood-style movie than American Me is. I'd say American Me is a little more documentary style.
Danny, do you think that the ending to American Me was a proper ending? Do you think that's the way the movie should have ended, the way it ended with Edward James almost getting killed?
Well, that isn't how it ended. It didn't end with his death.
It shows him falling down after he got stabbed, right?
Yes, but that isn't the end of the movie. The movie goes on after that. And what happens is his brother goes on a drive-by and initiates another youngster. So now the cycle begins all over again.
Right.
That's how it ends. It ends with the cycle repeating itself. It doesn't end with Santana getting killed.
And actually, you're right. You're very right. I was thinking about that side of it, and yes, it ends when it shows the kids getting in the car, and the cycle starts again.
All over again. So after you've been through that whole 2-hour movie, now you're going to go through the whole thing all over again. What's been learned? What progress has been made? Wow, we're just going to start this whole thing with a whole new generation like nothing ever happened? That's the ending of American Me.
Danny, do you think there's a resemblance in what happened to Puppet and to Edward James Olmos? And let me tell you where I'm going with this, es porque I see your role realizing, like, do I really want to be a part of this anymore after you had to kill your own brother, in a sense? And it seemed like if it affected you so much to where either I do that or they're going to kill the rest of my family, mom, dad.
He sacrificed the one to save his family. That's right. That's exactly what he did.
Now, just like Edward James Olmos' role, his role softens up because of the girl, of the girl he meets, right? He softens up a little bit. He starts seeing the other side of what's actually going on with the drugs that is being distributed, and he softens up, and that is why he gets killed, right? That's why he gets killed, because he softens up.
He gets killed because his point of view changes, and according to J.D., he softens up. But really, it's a whole change of mentality. It's a change of his point of view. He doesn't see it the same way he used to see it now. Right. He's evolving and changing, and mentally he's growing and expanding. His mind is expanding, and the camera's pulling back further and seeing the bigger picture now. Not that myopic view that he saw before earlier in the story. Now he's seeing a much bigger picture. And he doesn't like what he's seeing. He sees what he's doing to his own people. And she helps him to realize that. Julie's the one that helps. It's the female. It's the nurturing element in the film, which is represented by the divine feminine, which is the female, that brings him to that point of what you were saying earlier is softening up. If you want to look at it that way, you can. I see it more of his mind expanding and him pulling back like a camera pulls back and sees more of the picture than the camera saw when the camera was closer. That's what I see it as.
Do you think Puppet was experiencing the same thing, if not before killing his brother, afterwards?
I think Puppet had painted himself into a corner, and the ugly truth of it is that there was nothing he could do to get out of it. He had made that bed, and now he was being forced to sleep in it. So I think Puppet's situation was a little different because Puppet had no way out. He had to do what he did. There was no running away. There was no escaping. He did the only thing he knew he could do to save his family.
Danny, how long did filming take for that movie?
Filming actually took 10 weeks.
That doesn't seem too bad. Do you think that was too long?
No, that's the amount of time it takes to make a film like that, about 10 weeks. If you're, shooting on schedule and you get a lot of pages done per day, it's 10 weeks.
After American Me, where did you move from there? What happened with Daniel Paz from After American Me?
Well, after American Me, I kind of, when we were done filming, I didn't do too much, really. I wanted to wait till the film was finished editing, and I was looking forward to its release, and I was hoping that I was going to kind of wait and see that, my career would benefit from my work in the movie. But that is not what happened at all. That movie came out, and I never even got mentioned in the reviews. They never mentioned my name, nor was my image even appear in the trailer for the film. So nobody had any idea I was in the movie before the movie came out when they went to see the previews, because they showed all the characters, but they never showed mine. I don't know if they wanted to keep that a secret or what, but they never showed me in the film. So, and then when the film came out, like I said, I really wasn't mentioned in the reviews, and it just didn't end up doing anything for me at all. Actually, to tell you the truth, it was as though I had never done the film. And it really depressed me, I guess, to be honest with you. I got depressed, and it was a real bummer for me. I, worked, did little jobs here and there on various projects, and I started working on some student films and doing various things, but I really think that was the beginning of the of my disillusionment with the whole Hollywood system and the my career as an actor. It all started to kind of unravel at that point.
That's unfortunate, Danny, but can you imagine that's without you ever getting credit the way you should have, like as you're saying? But mind you, I'm sure that that people recognize you wherever you go in many areas of the United States. ¿No crees tú?
Yes, no, that's absolutely right. I have nothing to complain about. I really don't. As far as, my impact is concerned on the people who enjoy the movies and who love to see their culture represented up there on the big screen, they have let me know in no uncertain terms how they feel about my work and how much they appreciate it. And that's very gratifying. It really is. It's a very beautiful feeling to be embraced by your own gente, because they feel that you have represented them in a positive way, even though you're playing characters who are doing things that, maybe we're not proud of or whatever, I think it's the quality of the work that they appreciate. The fact that you do it in such good quality and that there's a certain kind of dignity that they sense that you bring to the role that they appreciate. So I do feel very grateful for all of that. I really do.
Danny, I can appreciate what you did. Actually, I think you did one hell of a job on your role. I really, really do. I mean, I could feel your pain, when you had to kill your little brother, little puppet, and then when you did kill him, I mean, I could feel your pain, dude. I mean, you sold it. You sold it to the team, man. It was just, you just sold it, dude. It was just, I could feel your pain, amigo, when you were doing all that. It was just, I was like, wow, man.
Well, I tell you, it's like this, On the one hand, you got all these people, film reviewers and critics and people in the industry that look at it. They don't even blink an eye. They never saw you. They could care less. They couldn't care less, actually. On the other hand, you got all these people praising you, putting you up on a pedestal. Oh, my God, you're wonderful. So, you know what I'm saying? The two things balance themselves out. They really do. I don't believe one. I don't believe the other. I just keep going forward and don't look back because I don't know what else to do. It's all just too much for me way, way too confusing, and it's something I wouldn't recommend for other people. I really wouldn't. I mean, if you don't have to be an actor, I would say, please don't do it. That would be my advice. If it isn't in you where you just absolutely have to do it, then don't bother, because it really isn't worth it.
But you know what, Danny? One thing that I think you can say, at least in your acting career, is that you made your mark. You really did, because, you know, there's a lot of actors out there that never at least make one mark, one movie where people remember them for that one part. But, hey, man, you left your mark, you know, with a lot of fans out there for your role in an American Me. ¿No crees tú, Danny?
Well, yeah, I like I say, I think that I have made an impact. People have let me know since the internet came about. That's when I got wind of all this. That's when I realized this impact, what had happened. I mean, when people are hitting you up from Finland and Denmark and Sweden and Germany and Czechoslovakia and Armenia, and they're telling you how much they like you in this movie, it's quite an amazing experience to realize that people all over the world are watching your work and are appreciating it, not just here in California or even in the United States, but we're talking about internationally. It's amazing what that internet has done, and how it's just brought everyone together like that.
Y fíjate, Danny, and going back to what you said, that's without being on posters, being on trailers, and getting the credits that you deserve. That's without that. Can you imagine if you would have gotten everything that you wanted?
I always ended up on the posters. Somehow or other, I did end up on posters. That's one thing I can say that I managed to do. I don't know how, but, you know, my image always ended up on a poster somewhere, and occasionally my name. But, yeah, but oftentimes you're right. There wasn't a lot of attention paid. But, you know, I don't want me to sound like sour grapes or bitter or anything like that. I'm really not bitter about it. But it's just been a hell of a ride. You know, it's been a very interesting experience. But I do feel like, yeah, on the one hand, you got people that just are yawning away, and on the other hand, you got people that really like what you do, and somehow you got to have both to make it work.
Amigo, what's going on today with Danny La Paz?
Well, I have a new film out now that's on Redbox, out where you are in San Antonio, and also out here in California. It's called Kill Capone, Capone with a K. And it's doing very well, actually. It's a new gangster film about today. It's my last gangster film, actually, because I had one more thing to say, and it kind of, I think of it as a trilogy. Boulevard Nights, American Me, and now Kill Capone completes the circle. And when you see the movie, you haven't seen it yet, have you?
Not yet, but I will.
Well, when you see it, you'll see what I'm talking about. We do a little tip of the hat to American Me in it. And it's kind of my way of saying goodbye, you know, to that genre of film, because I'm getting a little too old now for that whole thing. But it's a beautiful film, and it's directed by my very dear friend, Alfredo Ramos, who also wrote it. And he's the same guy who wrote Road Dogs, which is another great Chicano film that I'm also in, that I love very much. It's kind of like a Chicano Boys in the Hood. Have you seen Road Dogs?
No, I haven't.
And that's if you want to know the real story of Dan Del Paz's career, this is it in a nutshell. Here's the guy. He made 33, 34, 35 films, something like that. People saw 2. And somehow they thought in their minds that this guy was able to feed himself and support himself on the money he made from 2 movies over 35 years. How they thought that, I have no clue. But, you know, a lot of other artists that I really liked, after they died, everybody appreciated them. And I'm going to join that list. I can already see it right now. Once you die, then they go back and go, oh, my God, look at all these movies this guy did. Wow, let me check this out. Let me check that out. But before then, maybe it just ain't going to happen, you know.
Danny, let's shift gears here. I got a couple more questions for you. I know you're a busy person, but I got a couple more questions here. I know that you live in California, and you come to San Antonio quite often. Now, let me just ask you this. La comida en California y la comida en San Antonio, how different is it, if at all?
It's different. It's different. It's a different flavor completely, but I like them both. I really do. It's one thing I love about San Antonio. Every time I go there, and before I even get there, I'm looking so forward to going there because of the food. I love the food. There's restaurants I love to go to over there, and there's always new ones popping up, too, that I'm looking forward to trying. But, I got my favorite little places over there, like I have my favorite places over here. And I got good friends over there, good friends over here. I often think when I'm in Los Angeles, I'm going to turn the corner, and I'm going to be on South Presa. I sort of think of it as one place, in my mind. Yeah. It's all like one place. I know it's not, and it's separated by hundreds of miles. But in my mind, I could just turn the corner in L.A. and bam, there I am, on the south side of San Antonio or in downtown San Antonio or wherever. So I love them both. I really do. I really appreciate and love both of them for their cuisines and for their vibe and for the people. I've had great times in both places, and I'll continue to go back to San Antonio. I've been going there since the late 70s.
Danny, do you consider yourself an old schooler? And let me tell you where I'm going with this. Old schooler, and I'm going to go in the sense of music. La música, what type of music do you like to hear, Danny? Are you an old schooler?
Well, I'm an old schooler and a new schooler, because that's the thing about me is I like to know what's going on right now, what's happening now, who's writing the good stuff now. You're not going to hear it on the radio. That much I can tell you. But the Internet allows you to hear it. So if you know where to look, there's a lot of new school stuff that's been influenced by the old school stuff, which is like old school reinterpreted for today. So I like that a lot. I like to hear what young people do, how they show their appreciation and their love for the old school music by their reinterpretation of it now in the present. So I got a foot in the old school and a foot in the new school. I like them both.
Give me a couple of movies that you just simply really, really love, you enjoy, and you can watch over and over again.
Oh, there's so many. I love the work of Alfred Hitchcock because he's a master director, and I love to watch his movies. I like to study his movies. I love the work of Stanley Kubrick because he's another master director, and his movies I can watch over and over again, and every time I can see something new that I hadn't seen before. There's a lot of great cinematographers whose work I love to watch. I love the old school black and white movies from back in the day. I have a collection of DVDs and Blu-rays, and I just love to watch movies. That's what I do. Sometimes I'll put my little Blu-ray player on my stomach, and I'll lay down on my bed, and I'll pop my headphones on, and there I am in my little cinema, in my little cama, my little cinema de cama, watching my movies, and I'm lost in my little movie world.
I've got to ask you this. Do you have American Me as one of your movies that you have in your repertoire of movies?
I have American Me, but I don't watch it by myself. I usually watch American Me with somebody else.
Why is that, Danny?
Well, because when I watch it with friends, I offer something unique. When you buy these discs now, these DVDs and these Blu-rays, many of them come with a lot of supplemental features, a lot of additional goodies on there. Right. And one of the things they have are this thing called audio commentaries, where the director or the cinematographer or sometimes the actors or the writer or the producer even will talk while the film is playing. And the film volume is turned down a little bit, and they're talking over it about the experience of making this scene and that scene and what happened, how they cast it. Like what we're doing right now, they'll be talking during the movie. So what I do is I come over to somebody's house and watch the movie with them and offer the audio commentary live while the movie's playing. So they can watch it with hearing, okay, this is what happened when we shot this scene, and when we shot that scene. This is how we shot this scene, and this is where the camera was, and this is how we did this and how we did that. And it just makes it an interesting experience for someone that's already seen the film 20 or 30 times. They can have a totally unique experience, like they're seeing it for the first time because I happen to be there with them. So usually that's how I watch American Me, is if I'm going to do that at somebody's home where there's a group of people there that want to see the film with me. Sometimes people want to watch it with me.
I think that's awesome, dude. I think that's awesome, man. Danny, any last words for your fans?
Just a million thank yous. A million thank yous for all the love, all the respect. They've made me a better person. They really have. They've taught me how to keep my ego in check. And for that, I think I am a better person. They've just shown me so much love all over the country, all over the world, in Japan, everywhere I've gone. So much love, and I just sometimes I am overwhelmed by it, and I really, really do appreciate it. And I'm sorry I'm so reticent about doing interviews and stuff. It's just that, I don't know, interviews, it makes me feel a little bit like uncomfortable, kind of like talking about all this stuff. I don't know what it is. I guess if it's one-on-one, it's easier than if you're just, having an interview with somebody. But I guess I have to get over that because people do want to talk about these things. But that's why I got my Facebook page, so that people could get on there and they could engage me, because I am the one running the page.
Danny, I feel very, very blessed that you took the time to do this interview. I know we've kind of been going back and forth here for about 6-7 months, whatever the case may be. I know how you feel about doing interviews. That's why even more so, I feel very blessed and very thankful that you took the time to do this interview for me and for your fans as well.
Well, all I can say is it was painful.
Danny,
now I need to go and have some breakfast.
Danny, as long as you're talking as Danny La Paz and not as Puppet, porque if you talk to me as Puppet, I'm going to get nervous and I'm going to go hide, brother, right now, man. Me voy a esconder, amigo. Amigo, thank you for being part of Robert Rivas Radio Morning Show.
You're very welcome, brother. Very, very welcome.
Robert Rivas Radio, Tejano, and much more.